Hello, everybody. Sorry about the late start. This is the weekly edition of the UGASports Live podcast. My name is Radi Nabulsi. I'm joined by Dayne Young and Jim Donnan, the former Georgia head football coach, and the main reason everyone is tuning in. And we do this show each week mainly because our sponsors let us, and they do a great job of keeping us afloat and keeping the information rolling. So a big shout out to our friends at Academia Brewing Company, Your Pie, Athens Ford, and Dead Soxy. So give them a shot when you need any of their items. We greatly appreciate it. It is week 2 of Georgia spring practice. They have a practice this afternoon. We will be able to speak with a couple of the superstars of this team after that practice. There will be some open viewing periods. The media will be allowed in for about 15 minutes or so around 4:30. And they just sent us a note 90 seconds ago saying that after practice, we will also be able to speak to Kirby Smart. Earlier, we didn't think we were going to get him, but we're going to get to talk to Stetson Bennett, Keely Ringo, and Warren McClendon this afternoon. So we should have a lot of good practice observations coming your way, as well as updates with the starting quarterback, the star of the pick 6 in the national title game, one of your big offensive linemen, and the head man himself, Kirby Smart. Coach, I want to go to you first right off the bat. Week 2 of practice is here. We didn't get to see anything in week 1, but my guess is we didn't miss a whole lot.
Well, from a perspective of a coach looking at it, maybe a little different than you as far as what they were able to get accomplished. I just feel like the carryover value of having a starting quarterback, of having some established offensive linemen, and the fact that defensively they've got some guys that have practiced, just maybe not played in key roles, help the team get ready to maybe be a little further along than most teams would be going into spring practice. And we've mentioned it on this show before, the extra time that you get to meet with the players throughout February and March really helps you get your install, what we call putting in your offense, defense, and special teams. Really, special teams in the spring mostly work on punt and punt return, because kickoff and kickoff return be something they can work a lot more. And then you also work a little bit on your field goal and extra point. But overall, I would say that just the way we branch things out, having a day in between each practice gives you a chance to really do a lot of teaching. And the fact that we've got 4 new coaches helps them not have the hammer down where every day they're having to study something new, and they got plenty of time in between practice to analyze themselves as a coach and how they fit, and they're learning what to do as far as our practice tempo and knowledge of the system that they're employing now. So I would say that the first week has been good, just because you got 4 new coaches and a chance to look at a lot of new players. So it's going to be and from what I understand, we did have one young man that hurt his ACL, a kid from over here at Athens that went to Prince, a good little receiver, but hate that. Hope he'll get well quick. Mm-hmm. But I haven't heard of any really major injuries, except we knew Bowers was going to be out. And then also the fact that Washington got hurt and had to repair his foot. So overall, I feel like things are ready for some questions here. Let's get rocking.
I like the way Dayne. I like the way Coach mentions it's like, okay, the new coaches are in. They worked. And Cedric Van Pran was saying, look, we have terminology that we use on the offensive line, and Stacey Searles has his terminology, and we're melding it together. Which, as Coach points out, you get that day between where you say, okay, guys, I want to call it this, you call it this, and they meet in the middle. But coaches ticks off, get the new coaches oriented. Injuries. That's the 1 and number 2 of that first week of spring practice. I think that's really appropriate. Yeah, so give us your thoughts, Dave.
A guy like Cedric Van Pran, it's pretty interesting that you mentioned him, because when Kirby Smart's saying that in the spring is when things slow down and you can really do a lot of that, like one-on-one teaching or the tutelage of how all of this works, Cedric Van Brand was the new guy last year, right? He was the new guy on the offensive line. And then you wake up a couple of months after winning a national championship, and he's a veteran on this team. And people are going to look to him to say, how are you doing things? Because that's how we need to be operating ourselves. And that's one of the great things about college athletics, but particularly with this Georgia team. All you have to do is look at the NFL draft and see, all right, here are all these defensive linemen and inside linebackers going pro. That means there's a ton of opportunity for playing time for guys that are still on campus. And I think that's the most exciting thing about spring for Georgia. Which defensive linemen emerge to take those spots, which inside linebackers stand out from the pack. And then at tight end, when you don't have Bowers and Washington, is it going to be Gilbert? Is it going to be Delp? Is it going to be Godey? I mean, there's a lot of options because, frankly, there's availability and playing time. So I think that's going to be exciting to see what happens now that they can slow it down and really focus on development.
Yeah, I want to just give one little if anybody ever listens to me and feels like they need to do what I say, you need to take 9 minutes and listen to Cedric Van Pran on YouTube and listen to this young man, a freshman in college, been here about a year, and the way he's able to articulate his own thoughts, but also his feelings about the program and about his role and everybody else's role, and talking about the ex-coach that he lost, but also talking about the new coach. I mean, it was like he was reading from a teleprompter, but he didn't. But I mean that sincerely, because every point that you would like for a young man to make and every representation that you would like for your program to be articulated was that from a young man from Louisiana. And I was just thinking to myself, holy moly, this guy right here, I mean, he's got such a great future because his ability to communicate, which is one of the reasons why you go to college. I mean, you can talk all you want to about getting a degree. It's great, but and Dayne's in a school where of the university where you have to learn how to communicate and all, but learning how to meet and deal with people and learning how to be around people from different backgrounds and all that is part of college, but particularly on a team. And I thought he did a really good job of talking about how he was challenged all fall about going against Davis and White and all those guys. And the same thing's going to be true for these young D linemen. Now they're going to be challenged going against these more experienced O-line. So take 9 minutes and listen to it, because it'll be, even if you get fired at your job, you'd be worth getting fired over to listen to it. You get caught saying, good God, I got a guy like that playing for Georgia and talking. I mean, it's just very impressive to me. I mean, about as impressive as I've heard any young guy talk in a long time.
Yeah, I loved going down to see him. Made a couple trips to catch him in New Orleans. He is an absolute.
You just wanted to go get the beignets. You didn't want to go see Cedric Van Pran.
Hey, it's a win-win.
Work expense, right?
Yeah, exactly. You take off all that Pat O'Brien's Hurricanes. You charge them to the company and say, "Yeah, I'm here to see Cedric Van, whatever his name is." Yeah, that's how it works. But
I talk
that
very.
Guy, he'll blow your doors off. He's fantastic.
I talk very little about recruiting because I don't keep up with it like you guys do, or like all our people, like Jed May and Blaine, all those guys do a terrific job. But, occasionally I'll be over there and I'll just say something. I remember 2 years ago, and I said to Kirby, I said, what in the heck are we trying to recruit a kid out of Louisiana for? I mean, what's the chance of us getting the O-line? He said, well, I feel the same way a lot of times. He said, but I tell you, Pittman really thinks we can get this guy. He feels good about it. And, we got to go for him. And I said, well, I mean, he doesn't talk to me much about recruiting, but I just said that just out of the blue. And I remember him saying, hey, Pittman really feels good. And, when he does, that makes me feel like we got a good shot. Well, he had a good I remember when he came up here in the summer before that, after I talked to him, before I talked to him, and then after I did, the young man came up here for that visit when we had those water fights and all that stuff in the summer, and Keely Ringo was in here and all these other guys and Washington, but Van Pran was just running for governor out there. I mean, he got to move around. I mean, I always kid people when somebody goes with me, and then we're at a place and we're supposed to be hanging out, and then the guy moves around and talks to everybody in the room, and I asked him, I said, "What are you doing, running for governor?" And this guy's got really good people skills, and he's a good player. I mean, to start as a true freshman and an offensive line on a national championship team, I mean, that's a heck of a quality to have. And that's enough about that. But take those 9 minutes, and if you get fired, I can help you get some unemployment insurance. I'll work hard for it. But listen to it on your job. It's worth it.
You can find those interviews from spring practice on our YouTube channel at UGASports.com. Subscribe if you haven't already, because that helps us out.
Good.
Well, recruiting is changing a lot, and we do actually have some recruiting questions. We also have some questions about spring practice. I know I have received a ton of them, but Dayne, I want you to start off with the questions, because we want to take care of the folks at the dog vent, because they are our subscribers. They pay the bills, and we want to answer their questions. I guarantee you, if there's a question on the dog vent, then that same question exists all over Dog Nation. So hit us up with the first one there.
This one is from UGA. Yeah, this one from UGA PZ. If Coach had control over non-conference scheduling, what matchups or venues would he like to see Georgia play in?
I like to play the Little Sisters of the Poor every week. I mean, you can talk all you want to about everybody else, but I'm not caring about that. Now, with the way we got these other teams coming in the league, Oklahoma and Texas, you can probably play 9 games instead of 8. I mean, I'm all for making some of these trips and all for everybody, but from a coaching perspective, I mean, you got 9 big games every year, and I mean, maybe play. You're going to play Tech, so that's 10, which I don't at this point. It hadn't turned into much of a battle last few times, but it could be. You never know. But as far as if I had my druthers and weren't worried about winning or losing, then where would I like to play? From our perspective, certainly I'd like to go out to the Coliseum, go to LA, play. That's
my thought too.
That's a tremendous venue. Just so much history when you walk in there and coach in that game. We actually played that game seriously against USC and didn't have a tight end. We had 3 tight ends down when I was at Oklahoma, and we played a tackle. I mean, we put a lineman's a tight end's number on him, but I mean, it was ridiculous. But we had one play that we called the Trojan Special, which worked. And it worked. There was a yo-yo play for us in the wishbone, but where we faked up in there and then threw it back to the quarterback, and he threw it. And the guy was so wide open. I mean, they don't think about wishbone. You throw a yo-yo play like that.
No.
Flea flicker. And Carl Cabanis, who unfortunately has passed away recently, caught that for a touchdown. But we lost to him. I mean, as one of the big losses we had at Oklahoma. We didn't lose many games. I would play there, and then that would be one game. And then the next year, I like to play Clemson home and home, a couple years.
Wow.
just to go over Death Valley. Good place to play. Then maybe go up to Penn State, have them have a whiteout and play there and kick their ass. They wouldn't come down here and play. They don't like grits. You can't have that at pregame meal. And then maybe in the Midwest, maybe go up to Michigan and play in the big house. Just give them a chance to play us again so we can pull their pants down again.
Roddy, where do you want to go cover a game that you haven't?
Texas A&M.
Yeah. We need to go out there sometime.
I've been to every SEC stadium, but that one. I'm starting to laugh at the grit slide. I want to go to Ohio State. I would like to see that one time. But most of all, and I know what I really want to see, and I know it doesn't involve Georgia, is I got to go to an Army-Navy game.
That's a great venue.
I've never seen it, and I'm dying to.
We played up on the banks of the Hudson when I was at Chapel Hill, and just etched in so much tradition, riding in there to the stadium and listen. when I grew up, you guys weren't even alive, but we had Lindsey Nelson was a CBS guy, and he always wore those funky coats and very plaid jackets and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And, we tried to imitate him when we were young kids talking, Lindsey Nelson. And at the tail of the tandem, it's Dayne Young taking the ball deep in the backfield. And we're riding in here to the sea to play the Black Knights of the Hudson. So it was great. Lindsey Nelson. I mean, we played in the Sun Bowl in '74, and he was doing the play-by-play for CBS, and I was in the press box up as offensive coach for North Carolina in the little next box there. So I'm listening to Lindsey Nelson talk about our tail back out of the tail of the tandem and all. I'm trying to concentrate on the game. I'm thinking, God, I got Lindsey Nelson over here doing the game. When I got to meet him and everything, and it was such a great thrill for me. And I'm getting off on a tangent here, but seriously, if you could go play a game at Army, wow, just beautiful up there.
Yeah, let's get Georgia. Put Georgia on the schedule.
Yeah, but I'm all for playing.
I would probably go with Wisconsin, only because on all of those like best college towns list, you see Madison, Wisconsin up there.
I will say that's the only time I've seen.
You could have gone all day, all night, Marianne, down by the seaside, sifting sand, without bringing up Wisconsin. That's one of the worst memories I ever had. We had a back named Sleepy Floyd. That was his name. His nickname was Sleepy, and he was just
crappy nickname.
He was just kind of low key, but he was real quick. He was a lot like, he looked almost like James Cook, and he's a great kid, great player out of St. Louis, and he dropped 2 punts. I'm not talking about one. He dropped 2 inside the 15-yard line, and we had their ass beat. I mean, all you got to do is let the ball roll. Don't even touch it. And we lose to Wisconsin up there. Just one of the worst losses I ever had. I mean, what?
Well, at least you're not bitter about it, Coach. At least you've forgiven him.
Sleepy? Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna start calling him Dopey now instead of Sleepy. Hey, that was a bad one. That was bad. Bad.
Hey, I'll say when Georgia faced Wisconsin in one of the bowl games, those folks came down to Florida. I think it was in Tampa, and they partied their ass off. That's the only time I've seen fans have a bigger tailgate in a wilder time than Georgia fans. I've always said Georgia fans.
That's a good memory. That's a good memory there.
Yeah, those Wisconsin fans, they know how to have a party. So yeah, I'm with you there, Dane.
Mike Bobo and I were talking about that game the other day when I was over there for just a little bit before, just say hello to him and welcome him back. And I was kidding him about how he couldn't throw the ball in the ocean from a rowboat all practice, and then all of a sudden he hits 26 out of 28 or something like that. I mean, he said, "Well, Coach, you call a lot of screens for me." I said, "Well, we had to, but boy, did we ever stifle old that big Ron Dayne? I mean, just hit him in the backfield the whole game, and then Robert, and then I remember Landis Gary getting off in that game too. Yeah, he was good. So and Hines Corey out. It was good. But anyhow, let's talk about the recent. That's a long answer on that question. What's next?
Here's a pair of quarterback questions from Pollock. That's David Pollock's name with the ED on the end from UGASports.com. How does Coach handicap the battle to be Georgia's number 2 quarterback? And then also, what vibe are you guys getting in terms of Georgia's chances with Arch Manning?
Well, as far as the number 2, you going to answer it? Answer it.
No. I was going to say I want to give Jeremy. He sent a thing on Facebook. He asked the exact same thing. He says, "What is the backup quarterback situation with Carson Beck and Brock Vandagriff, and what is the difference in their games?" So if you would put all that together in your answer, I'd appreciate it. That'll take care of 2 birds with 1 stone instead of us having to ask the same question twice.
Yeah, well, first of all, Carson's had some really good experience here. Made dramatic improvement from year 1 to year 2. He's got a good arm, has got really good presence about him, and knows where to go with the ball, and has an existing relationship from Monken going back when he and his Monken son were playing Little League baseball when Monk was with the Jaguars. So, they got good communication, and I think he's certainly in a position where he could come in and be a valuable player for us. As far as Brock, I mean, just dramatic improvement between spring practice last year and this year, just because of all the reps he got being on the scout team and the way he worked. He's a very, very competitive guy. You can just see the juices out there. He loves football and has a very talented skill set. I mean, he's got good movement, a big arm, and is pretty accurate to throw the ball as hard as he does. And then he's got a good knowledge of the system now. I mean, he's not anywhere near where he's going to be. This is only his second spring practice, but I like what we got in those two guys. And then Gunnar Stockton, just being here as a true freshman, just to be in the meeting room, to watch these guys, to see how they practice, to understand things. He's going to be way ahead of the game from not as compared to coming in the summer. And he'll get a lot of work this spring, doing a lot of drill work, and I feel good about a quarterback. As far as Arch Manning, that's our number one target. There's no question about it. That kid that just committed to Tennessee, Rico. We talked about that a couple of times. Is a very talented guy, but he was in a position where he wanted, to make a commitment, and we weren't ready for it. I don't know that we could have gotten it anyhow, but the whole point is Arch is the guy that we really have a lot of things going for, and hopefully we can get him. He's a very talented kid. He loves ball. He had a good visit here last weekend from all indications. What I like about seeing these guys is they come in there and they get to meet with the players, see what we're doing, watch our tempo at practice. His dad, Cooper, is really big on interacting, as a father, but he's going to let the guy make the decision. I mean, I'm not a real authority on the family, but I do know they really like ball. You know what I mean? They're consumed by all the little intricacies of being a ball player. So we got a good shot. I mean, of course, Alabama's always going to be strong with their, all the guys that they put in the pros, and I guess Texas is lingering out there. I don't know, but I feel like we got as good a shot as anybody.
Yeah, Coach, with Carson Beck and Brock Vandegrift, going back to Jeremy's question, who do you think is like the number two right now, and what is the difference in their games?
Well, just because of what we do, and when I say we, UGA, which I think is the fair way to do it, you always go with the upperclassmen to start the spring practice. That's the only fair way to do it. I mean, you don't want to stick a fork in somebody. I'm not talking about these two guys, but just say like you got a guy that's in the case of Eric Gilbert out there, tremendous talent, got a lot of ability, potential, has already been playing, but he hasn't been here as compared to Seether and Godey. So I'm sure at this point they started out ahead of him. Now how long they'll be, who knows? But that's the only fair way to do it. And the same thing's true with Beck. He's just been here longer. He's had more practice time with the twos and the ones, and but we're going to see over the next couple of weeks, based on if I were the coach, which I'm not, but I know the way our coaches think. You got to say, what happens if something happens to Stetson? So you want to see how guys react playing with the ones. I mean, that's what you got to do. So I think both these guys will get some shots with the one. We know what Stetson can do. So let's see how these guys react. So it's definitely a two-man race there. I mean, the difference is Beck has a little more experience with the system, is more of a drop-back guy. Certainly he can move okay, but you bring Brock in there, he's the epitome of a spread quarterback. I mean, he can run the zone read. He's probably as good a runner as we've had back there as far as being maybe not as quick as Stetson, but certainly got very good ball skills too. So brings a little bit different element back there with what he does. So good situation for Georgia right now.
Yeah. Staying on the Arch Manning thing, we got a question from Dog in France. I want to.
Dog in France?
Dog in France.
Can you speak French?
I hope so. I don't. I can speak a little Spanish,
All right,
let's French. He said, "How did Arch Manning's visit go?" Which you just touched on. He says, "What does that other quarterback committing to Tennessee mean for Georgia, and how much NIL money will it take to land Arch?" So I will take part of this real quick. I will say I want to echo what Coach said. Everything that I've been told was that Arch Manning's visit went really well, and the phrase I got was as well as they could have hoped. Now, the problem there is,
but who knows that? I mean,
yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. What did they hope? Did they hope he was going to commit? Did they hope he was just have a good time? I mean, it's
the coach, their coach, his coach is doing a good job of being an intermediary, and he gets interviewed as soon as Arch goes somewhere, and he does a good job of talking about what happens, and all he can go by is what Arch and Cooper tell him. But I think for us to say that it went well, I mean, we could say it went like dog shit. I mean, who knows? I don't know either one. I really don't, and I can't say. But I do know this. I've seen the guy when he's interacting here. Last summer, I was here when he was here for a one-day camp, and you can tell. I mean, I've been coaching a long time, and you can tell when a guy's genuine and when he's really into it, and he's as compared to body language that isn't. And his body language was go dogs when he was here in the summer. Now, I don't know about this last time because I didn't go over there on purpose, so I couldn't say anything because I don't want to be asked and say it. But I would tell you this, his dad is a good guy. His granddad I know well through the Hall of Fame and through a lot of things, and I know Peyton a little bit. So if you just listen to them and listen to Peyton talk ball and all that, these guys love the gym rat type philosophy. You know what I mean? They just love being around sports and they love the energy that Kirby has at practice. I mean, if you come to practice here and you've never been to a college practice is one thing, but if you've been to other ones and then come here, there's a lot of difference in the intensity here and then some of the places. I can tell you that. Now, there's probably some that are as intense. If they are, I haven't seen it, but we got the market on organization, teaching, and it's pretty evident when you see the results that we've had here in 6 years.
As for the part about the
Coach, I'd just prefer that you I'd prefer you not talk to Peyton and Eli after they stole our watch along idea and made millions of dollars off of ESPN. That was our territory.
Yeah, that was something. And now our boy Kirk Herbstreit's going to go with Amazon on Thursday night. And I was talking to Bear yesterday, and I asked him if he was going to go with him as his little inside man that shoots him stuff. And they also got a guy that's in security, and he said, "I'm hoping so. I need some coin. Want some of that Amazon coin, you know." So, but I mean, they're paying some big money to Kirk and the play-by-play guy Al Michaels. So that's going to be big. You know, Thursday night Amazon's going to be streaming.
Yeah, free prime shipping for those guys, I guess. Like they get it.
How about Troy and Buck going to Monday Night Football too? I mean, that's huge. They get the number one Fox people going to ESPN. I mean, ESPN laying out some money. Disney World must be doing pretty good.
It is. I love it. I did want to finish up with that question about what is the Nico committing to Tennessee mean for Georgia. I think Coach nailed it when he said that makes Arch your number one guy right now. So, but they do have plans B, C, and D in the works, and we've had some of those stories at UGASports.com, so you need to check those out. I want to take a quick break and mention our friends over at Dead Soxy. They are one of our best sponsors of not only this show, but our website as well. And we want to mention that you can sign up if you go to their website. They will, if you want to just become one of their new customers, you can give them your email address and they will send you a pair of free socks. So you get to try them, see what you think. And if you go through and if you do like I do, you go and check out reviews on companies and stuff like that. And I was reading through some of the reviews on Dead Socks and it made me laugh because everyone said the same thing that I am. I'm like, I'm always skeptical of new products and things like socks. I think most of them are just basically a ripoff or, I'm writing a review about socks. Why would I ever do that? And I'm kind of the same way. When Dead Soxy approached, I said, "Hey, can we send you some products? We think you'll like it." And I'm like, I'm not going to be a shill for a sock company. Come on, man, that's ridiculous. And then they sent them to me, and I tried them on. I'm like, oh, okay, these are badass socks. So, and started looking into it and saw they had the True Stay technology that keeps them up. They don't slide down. They're incredibly soft. They feel fantastic, And I started thinking about some of the more successful brands of clothing that are out there, and I'm like, yeah, you don't really think about the socks. You think about what are the comfortable pants, what are the comfortable shirts. You see people on Shark Tank selling shirts and going crazy, and you come to realize, well, hell, you put on a pair of socks just about every day of your life. So yeah, why not have socks that feel the same way? So do me a favor, check out Dead Soxy. Remember that if you use promo code UGASports, you'll get 25% off your order. But read through the reviews. Don't take my word for it. Take actual reviews from people. These are not made up. These are real reviews. Check them out, and I think you'll love it. So I want to give them a shout out. While we're also talking about great reviews, I want to mention our friends over at Athens Ford. If you look at their customer service awards, they win awards all the time for having their best customer service. And that's because they're not pouncing on you the minute you walk onto the lot trying to sell you a car that it's going to break down in 15 minutes. Everything they sell, that's new or under 80,000 miles has a lifetime powertrain warranty on it. They actually have vehicles on the lot. A lot of places do not right now. I know that I had a friend reach out to me from Macon saying, hey, you mentioned them on the show. They say they have cars. The Macon market right now is thin on vehicles. So he's actually going to come up to Athens to look for a car there. So he's going to have to drive a couple hours or, however long it takes to get from Macon to Athens, basically to find a vehicle because there's just not a lot where he's at. So point being, it's worth a trip. And if you're dead set on getting something very specific, go to Athens Ford and click on the custom order function. You can actually start a custom order and they will prep it exactly the way you want it. The trim packages, the styles, all that fun stuff, the colors, and then they'll build and deliver it to you. So check out our friends at Athens Ford, and that's back-to-back companies between them and Dead Sox who are just going to give you ridiculously good customer service.
All right, let's go back to some questions from UGAsports.com. This from Billy Zane. I have a child from Titanic. Lots of talk about complacency or entitlement being a concern after winning the national championship. Do you think that's a valid concern, or does the depth of talent that Georgia has accumulated keep that to a minimum, since every position will have plenty of talented guys competing for that starting spot?
Good question.
I would say in some programs maybe that up and down a little bit on their talent level, you could see that happen. But here, the consistency of the recruiting, development in the weight room, there's just too much competition that guys have been in really big practice environments here. There's not that much of a drop off as far as the talent, maybe some experience, but your age is your experience. If you got talent, I'm going to always go with talent over experience. I've always believed in that. I remember the first time I really had any kind of big role in doing anything was at Florida State when I was a real young coach, and I had a young kicker who was very young. He's a freshman, and we were playing Pittsburgh up there, and we had the ball, and we were going to kick a field goal. And I told the coach, I said, look, I don't know, but I'd like for him to really have some success. I don't know if he can make it. He said, well, if he can't, why'd you bring him on the trip? He said, he's our kicker. He said, it's a field goal. Let him go. I said, yeah, I'd just like for him to make that first one. But, which was done by me. But he went in there and he kicked it. But that's the point. If you make a decision to go with the young guy, then go with it. And it's always been you learn by experience as a coach, and that was something I learned right off the bat. Play the young guys, play the freshmen if they're the best players, and you see what we do with young guys here, that if they not starting, they get to play on special teams and they get experience. So complacency, I don't see that being a real issue here. The only thing that can knock us off would be some really serious injuries to key people in key roles, or some guys thinking that, they're better than they are, which I guess that's a little bit like complacency, but that's overconfidence sometimes. But you got to remember, as long as we got that guy coaching, the head coach here, I mean, there's not one person in our program, I'm talking about from the equipment room to the training room to the weight room to every facet of this program, those people are on point from him, because they don't know what it's going to get him off, on anything. So, he's on top of everything, which I'm giving him a lot of credit for, but he's not going to let anything be complacent. I can tell you that.
No, I'm with you. If you're one of those guys that think you're better than you are, it's like, hey, we won a title. Kirby will put some film on there showing where you messed up and where, hell, 3/4 of that game you look terrible, and he will point that out to you in a heartbeat. And he'll say, hey, I've got 5 guys right behind you that can play your job, do your job. So you can act like your butt don't stink, but that won't last very long with Kirby. Or I mean, hell, you think Brian McClendon's going to put up with that from a receiver? Or Stacey Searles is going to do that for the offensive line? Or Trey Scott's going to let one of his guys half-ass it on the defensive line? Those guys got pride too, and they want to win a second one.
That's where I think having new coaches help a little bit, just because of the guys that might think they, know exactly what's expected from the other coach. Now they got a new one. You got to show him your skill level and all that.
Good point.
You can't be flip-flopping around. But, you're talking about the players understanding that they didn't do that great for 3/4. There's the coaches, every one of those guys understand there were some good opportunities missed as far as coaching too. And all of us have had that. I mean, every game I've ever coached, I look back and there's things I wish I could do over, but that's why but we do a really good job of self-scout and self-reflective. And, I read something today. Kirby was talking about how good some of these coaches try to improve themselves, talking to other guys. And, just like, for instance, when those pro coaches were in here for the pro day last Wednesday after we had our show, we had our show Wednesday night, I guess, but those coaches here, but I guarantee you, Kirby and those coaches get those guys, hey, can we talk 15 minutes about your red zone package, or could you talk to us a little bit about practice organization? Or, I mean, that's invaluable. You got Bill Belichick here, or Mike or Conlon, I mean, just those guys are good to have around and talk ball with.
I can't imagine the football.
This is a bit of a softball here from PA Dog 610 says, Coach Donnan, in your opinion, does the offense have potential to be more explosive in 2022 as compared to last year?
Well, we were certainly explosive last year, made dramatic improvement on big plays. One of the things that I enjoy about reading our site is we have you and Brent always coming up with these different things that you analyze. And Brent did a good job of comparing our explosive plays on 2021 to 2020. And I didn't realize that we were nearly as explosive as we were. But a lot of times we were, in fourth quarters where we didn't even do anything. So we had 3 quarters of being ahead and we didn't really do a lot. But I think the addition of Arian Smith will really help us from that standpoint. Having a trio of Bowers, Washington, and Gilbert will help on the play action. And then just the fact that A.D. Mitchell has made so much improvement from last spring to the championship game to right now. He gives you a guy out there, that X receiver that can go deep, can really catch the ball in traffic. He's made a lot of big catches when ball in the air, and Bennett throws that ball remarkably well. So, and then you add 84 in there who can go over the middle good. And then I think Roddy mentioned the fact that all of a sudden you got Blaylock, Rosemary, Saint, got him back, and also Karis Jackson, those three. So, and both these backs can hum it too, Milton and Kenny Mack, and Edwards is kind of slippery. I would say we would be a little bit more explosive just because of the play action game. That's where you really get the big plays, and the fact our schedule. I mean, we're going against some defenses that aren't going to be that stout as far as stopping you. So I'll go out on a limb and say we'll have more explosive plays than we did last year. But last year was good.
Yeah. Show enough 253 gives a natural follow-up. He says, looking at the difference in year 1 and year 2 from Brent Rollins' article on UGAsports.com in regards to Todd Monken's offense, what makes a good play-action quarterback? What enables some quarterbacks to have great success in Todd Monken's system and maybe others that wouldn't?
Great question.
Well, the first thing is to have good play-action. You've got – I remember going to a clinic when I was a young coach, and Doug Dickey was the coach at Tennessee at that time, and he was up there talking about the running game, but he also was talking about throwing the ball. He said, no matter what kind of system you're in high school, you've got to be able to throw something good. There comes a point where you've got to be able to have some bread and butter where you know that you can call this pass and it's not a waste down. It's something you have a really good chance of hitting to supplement your run game. So throwing something good is kind of an all-encompassing statement, but you got to have something that you can go to, whether it's a tight end across after a fake on the inside zone, whether it's a tight end on an option route where he can read man or zone, whether it's a 3-level sprint out pass where you got a guy in the flat, you got a guy in deep, and you got a banana out behind that guy in the flat like a flood route, whatever it might be. All these things go into the play action game. But so let's say where are we going to launch it? Are we going to launch it after being under center? So many teams now are in the shotgun, and it's so much easier to read a play action when the quarterback's already back there. But if he's under center, you got the disguise factor that, you don't see him because he's big old guys, and you're faking either a counter play or whatever it might be, and you're getting some depth after your fake. So the real key on a play action pass to me is it really a pass that's off a really good run, or is it a deceptive one where you're trying to counter, fake one way and then roll out, or go to the actual naked, which is a bad word, but it really means you're out there, you're exposed, and you're counting on faking the defense, and you're running what we call a naked bootleg, where you fake up in there and nobody pulls the block for you, and you hope the end closes and you take it on the perimeter. So all of those are play action type actions that Stetson Bennett is a master at. I'm not talking about just average. He's a master play action pass guy. You look at all the passes he's thrown, all the elements of where he throws them, the way he can get away from the rush. Very seldom do we get sacked on a play act, which was so unbelievable in the championship game. We got sacked 4 times on play action passes because of mental errors by either somebody picking up the blitz or a receiver running the wrong route. We had 4 times where it was a play action pass that we got sacked, which is really terrible. So here's the point. You got that, plus you've got the RPOs, which we've discussed before, which you call a run, and then if it's not there, you can throw the pass because they've stacked up to start the run. So that's the difference between the two. You got play action and RPOs, and he's a master at the RPOs too because he's such a good faker and he can run. If he keeps the ball, he's as big a threat as he is throwing it on that. So I would say we're in the upper echelon. We're in the top 1% in the country going into next year as far as being a play action team. I would say, certainly Bryce Young's good at it at Alabama, but we're right there with anybody.
You had mentioned Arian Smith. Shown off 253 had a second question. Who steps up as the deep threat at wide receiver? Is it Arian Smith if he's 100%?
I'd say Arian Smith's certainly going to be there, but I also like Mitchell and McConkey. McConkey's so slippery, he can get through what we call a read route on the. Let's just coach him up a little bit. Let's say you have a free safety back there, and it looks like a one high safety. You can have a one high or a two high. Two high means you can probably be playing two deep, either man under or zone. But a one high means you can be three deep or man free safety or what. So the middle guy on the route is reading the free safety. If he closes and comes down on the run, he'll go over the top, a lot like he did against Auburn this year.
Auburn. Yeah.
If the free safety opens to a two deep look, then he might banana in and try to get in between them and hook up. Or if he plays really deep, then he might run a kind of a perimeter route where he's just kind of crossing in front of him. So as much as the quarterbacks read, the receivers do too. And what we talk about is the middle of the field open. So you put middle of field open or middle of field closed. If it's closed, you're going to break the route off because there's no sense to try to outrun somebody that's lined up deep. You know what I'm saying? So Monken's got some really good read routes by the inside receivers. And the same thing's true with different personnel in there where Brock Bowers is doing that. He broke one against Georgia Tech where safety was hanging and he went right between him and he went right down the middle for a big one. So it's another way to run an RPO without running the RPO. You're actually running it off a play action pass. I hate to get in all this jargon here, but I like to talk a little ball once in a while. But the whole point is if you've got a play action pass, and we used to do this at Oklahoma, we didn't call many play action passes, but we told Keith Jackson, you got an option route every time. If the middle of the field's open, go on and run the post. If it's closed, run a flag. If the corner's back, just run an out. Because it'd be ridiculous for us to call a deep ball to him over the middle against a three deep look. So we just called 86 wide choice. And he just did what he wanted to, which was get open most of the time because nobody can cover him. But that's the whole deal with college football now. A lot of pro stuff that Monken brings where the receivers read the coverage along with the quarterback.
So the quarterback has to read it as well and know where his receiver is going to be.
Right. But the middle of if you had to talk about, which I really think you've done a good job coaching, listen to you talk about your coaching Little League and all that and coaching and everything, right? I believe that you could even read the free safety where the middle of the field's open or closed. So
Probably not.
We could have a clinic on here, and the worst person in football doesn't even know if a football is blown up or stuffed to figure out if the middle of the field's open or closed.
No, I was saying that. I was thinking when you had all the three options for Keith, and then when you have Lad McConkey, he's reading it, and he's like, okay, I'm going to run this I'm going to cut it off underneath him, where he's going to wind up, on that play.
I mean,
Stenson's got to be able to look over everybody and see where he's at. So,
well, that's where you have indicators. And basically, most defensive backs are going to tell you by the way they open up their hips.
Yeah.
And the same thing with linebackers. If you're on the hash and the linebacker is going to try to get to the field, he's going to really have to open up his shoulders, to get there, as compared to just kind of staying square, So, or the depth of the defensive backs usually tell you whether it's man or zone. They're not going to play back a long ways and try to play man coverage. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So you're going to read. You come out of the backfield as a quarterback. And I used to tell our quarterbacks this: one of the worst things you can do is waste 7 seconds coming out of the huddle. I mean, there's 7 seconds that you got walking to the line of scrimmage where you can analyze the defense. Get your head up, looking for those indicators. First of all, I'm going to look at that nose guard who's going to tell me whether it's odd or even. Then I'm going to look at the linebacker's depth. Then I'm going to look at the free safety, and he's going to tell me on my key. Now, if you're in a different look where you don't huddle, then you have even more time to look at it. You're already back there, you're looking at it. And these guys spend an inordinate amount of time reading people. I mean, it's fun. I mean, that's what coaching is all about. Teach them how to read it. Same thing with your running backs, teaching them how to do protections and all. But we got an intricate system. But the thing that helps us, we never see anything in a game that we haven't seen in practice, because our defense runs everything in the history of football and create a few new chapters every year. So we got it. We see it every day.
Well, speaking of new chapters and things to read, you should go read the Academia Brewing Company's Facebook page and check out some of the new chapters they have on beer. They've got 2 new ones out now. Volume 6 in their Death Ripper family of hazy IPAs. Yeah, check out the Death Ripper if you like a hazy IPA with from crafted by some of the best guys in the business. Check out our friends at Academia Brewing Company, and of course they have their sour syllabus. So for those people that like sours, they got those as well. And I wish I'd been in town for St. Patty's Day. They had their slow roasted corned beef. They only do that on St. Patty's Day. So they great place to go when there's days to celebrate. Check them out, So again, if you want to read some new chapters and see some new things, some new options, always check out the Academia Brewing Company Facebook page. They had a game night this past Monday. Then last week they had the St. Patty's Day stand-up comedy show. There's always fun stuff going on out there, and we appreciate you folks supporting them as well. And of course, today is Tuesday, and it's the day you get double points if you use your Pie app. So if you want a great pizza, a great salad, a great sandwich, a great pasta dish, you can do that with our friends at Your Pie. If you want one of their signature pizzas, and I'm going to put up my signature pizza, the one that I get when I go out there all the time is the Southern Heat. It's got the buffalo sauce, the mozzarella, chicken, red onions, and jalapenos, served with ranch or blue cheese. It's the best pizza in the world. And if you disagree and you eat any of the other ones like the Lineage or the barbecue or the Ishka or the Great White or the barbecue chicken, I'll respect you. Just not as much as if you'd gotten a Southern Heat, because you're obviously are picking second best. So when you get a chance, order a Your Pie pizza. Do it on the app. Get out your phone. Do it that way. Get the double points on your thing. And again, you get to pick your crust, your sauce, all of the toppings, and you just click the little button. I want this one, this one, this one, this one. It'll be perfect when you go pick it up or when you have it delivered. So you can customize it just like you would if you walked into a Subway. Exactly the amount that you want, and they will make a perfect pizza for you, and you will absolutely love it. So when you get a chance, hit up Your Pie and order from them. There should be one near you if you're pretty much anywhere in the Southeast. What are some of our other questions, Dane?
All right, we have 3 more questions. Yeah, 3 more from the dog vent. Charlotte Dog says that he's reading Irk Russell's book and saw that he lettered in tennis. Coach Donnan, did you ever have the opportunity to play tennis with or against Irk Russell?
Yeah, I played with Irk a couple of times. He's a very good athlete, just sounded self-taught, and had a little advantage because I played a lot more than he had, but very competitive guy. And, he didn't butt me in the head or anything like he did. But he's a good player, and I enjoyed the comradeship too. I mean, we had a lot of good talking in between.
That's awesome. I think it's a subtle way of saying I won.
Dog 34, thinking of how Georgia recruits special teams athletes, does Coach Donnan believe the best course is to offer a full scholarship to a player before they're in Athens, or have them accept a preferred walk-on and then earn the full scholarship?
You're talking about kicker or place kicker or something like that, or just an athlete?
Says special team athletes. So
yeah,
how do you interpret that?
I don't think you can delineate that to the point where you would give a guy just a scholarship because of special teams. But, you're going to get an athlete as a wide receiver, a DB, running back, that you feel like his skills will help you in the special teams, but you need to supplement that position more than you would just give a guy a special teams scholarship.
And then final one from the vent. This is from Zinger Dog. Donnan generally has a particular guy from the incoming class that he's really high on. example being Jalen Carter. Does he have a guy on this year's freshman class, or has it changed since they've been on campus? And it sounds like you've got like 5, frankly.
Yeah. I mean, I like Williams. Just going to be Williams as a defensive end coming in there. I'd also like Walker from North Carolina, linebacker, Everett, corner. I like Marset, the wide receiver. I think all the 4 of those guys really got a lot riding on the table as far as jumping in there and playing pretty quick. Maybe not to the extent that Carter, Carter is just once in a lifetime player, but all these guys got good people skills too, good talkers, good fit in good with the program, and just amazing to me that you could help your team. If you just put it like this in this perspective, you lose so many good players, and we're going to see it in the draft, and you lose some good kids too. But the way we supplemented those guys, the ones we got coming in, looked like you just hand painted those guys to be the next person at that position. So we got really good guys coming in here as a class to make up for the ones we just lost. And the last 2 years we got some too. You look at the guys that are getting ready to play a lot more. So it's a good-looking football team athletically, really good-looking. And that's one of the things I get to look at. Sometimes I don't go to practice much, but I watch them in the off-season program and the way they can run and jump and lift, and just makes my mouth water.
I like the
Roddy, isn't it always funny how coach mentions a guy? So in this case, Denylon Morris said, I had not heard much about him over the last, month or two. And then 3 weeks ago, coach says, hey, you need to watch out for this Morissette at wide receiver. And then all of a sudden, all over my Twitter feed, all over these other media outlets, I see people saying, yeah, you need to watch out for Morissette. And I'm thinking, where'd you hear that from?
Yeah, hey, I mean, I'm not go back to Brock Bowers last year. Who was talking about him, coach?
Hey, I will take credit for Bowers
from Jordan Davis
from standpoint of pointing him out. But I hate that. That's why we're on the show. I mean, people can. I mean, I don't mind giving you my opinion, but it's not hard to pick these guys out. I mean, and wait till you see Marvin Jones Jr.
Yeah.
I mean, when we
play, him calling right now?
Yeah, that might be Marvin's dad. When we play Oregon, I would like for 2 guys to get off the bus first. Carter and then Marvin Jones. Get off the bus and let Dan Lanning see them.
This is what you missed out on, Dad. No, and I remember you mentioning A.D. Mitchell after. I want to say I put down A.D. Mitchell, but when he had that huge spring last year in the spring game, because a lot of wide receivers were banged up, and he had 5-7 catches, tore off. I said, yeah, we see this a lot with wide receivers really doing well in the spring game. Go to Jonathan Rumpf, guys like that. And they would just show up, show out, and you're like, wow, this guy's going to be a monster come fall. And it never happened. And I mentioned that, and coach is like, no, that's if he can do it here, he can do it in the fall. And sure enough,
he did it all.
A.D. Mitchell.
And he took advantage of Pickens being out. And, Pickens went down in the spring. And I will remind you of this, because I'm about 100% on when I meet a guy and really feel good about it. But the first year that he was here, he came here for bowl practice, and then he got COVID and he couldn't practice, and then he had to leave and everything. And my daughter was coming in here from the airport, and I couldn't go get her because of Mary's situation. But so she took a shuttle, and I picked her up over there at the Georgia Center, and he was waiting to leave, and he had on this Georgia gear. And I thought I knew who he was, but I introduced myself and started talking to him. He said, yes. Coach said, I've been here, but I hadn't been able to practice, but I've been around these guys, and I'm fired up. I can't wait to spring. I'm coming back. I'm going home for a little while. And he says, I'm telling you one thing. He said, we're going to kick Baylor's ass or something. Whoever we played. Was that who we played 2 years ago?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, he said, those guys are ready to go. He said, Pickens going to eat them up. And he told me that, and that's the first time I ever met him, and it was impressive. So maybe it was, I don't know when it was. I don't know if it was about Baylor or what, but just meeting him out there, I can't remember. It was impressive, very impressive.
That's a guy, and we ask around. We didn't get to see practice last week, so we were asking people inside the Butts-Mehre building, who are you hearing about? And they mentioned, they're like, this guy had a monster practice Saturday. Amongst the freshmen, they mentioned Michael Williams just being an absolute beast. We heard about Dayne Morissette. And now the thing about Morissette is, I know some of our recruiting guys are like, yeah, he's pretty good. He's definitely a good receiver. But towards the end of his high school season last year, I know Jed May and Blaine had seen a lot more of his games. They're like, this kid is actually going to – he moved way up in their rankings. And sure enough, this spring, we've heard good stuff about Morissette as well. So that's the buzz we hear. We don't get it like Coach does, but we ask who people are buzzing about inside the building. That's a couple of them.
Here's the thing about this guy. Up at the line of scrimmage, I mean, he can get off the ball, and Keely Ringo's got to be on his key, be ready to rock when this guy comes off the line. See, he's got good quickness, and
I love it.
He'll be somebody who can help us. We're going to be good at receiver, and
he's going to be a very good ambassador too for the university as well. I don't know if he can be as good as Cedric Van Pran or Jalen Walker. Those two are. That's your presidential ticket, in a few years. But that's those two guys, their oratory skills are off the charts. But
yeah, Jalen Walker is a complete man already. I mean, just he looks like Quay Walker out there. I mean, just
Jesus.
Wow.
And again, the interview I did with him the day he committed up in North Carolina. Which the two best things that day was his speech and me going over to that barbecue place you mentioned, Coach.
That makes Stamey's barbecue.
Stamey's, yeah. I don't know which was better. Those were two good highlights of that day. But again, you talk about going back and watching an interview. Do a Google search on our channel for Jalen Walker commitment video. And if that kid is not your number one linebacker that you're excited about, again, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's the best one out there. I'm just saying, but if you're a Georgia fan and this is a guy wwho represents your university, you're going to be thrilled with him as well. So,
hey, we need to find out. I saw today where they going to have the spring game on ESPN2. We might ought to think about a watch-along show there, but
there you go.
Who knows? But anyhow, appreciate everybody watching, and I'm going to go out here and play some tennis.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. We ran a little long today because we got started a little bit late. It's usually my fault as usual. So we appreciate you, everybody tuning in with us, and we will see you next Tuesday at noon. Shout out to our sponsors, Athens Ford, Europi, Academia, and Dead Soxy. Please hit them up and let them know that you heard about them on our show. It would mean a lot to us, and we will see you next Tuesday at noon. Take care.